Wedding day. It was supposed to be the happiest day of everyone's life. Or at least, that was what Titi thought. Her makeup was set. The car was waiting. People were already posting, God went on her behalf. But there was one thing she couldn't shake. The feeling that something about her own gown wasn't right. Some called it curse, but she never believed that until that letter reached her hand. Please stay with me on this one, especially if you love weddings, because what happened next will make you think twice about who stands beside you at the altar. Welcome to my channel. Titi and Ifeyinwa had known each other since they were 8 years old. They met at church during children's choir practice. They both had small voices, shy smiles, and the same love for puff-puff after service. From that day, they were like glue, always together. They went to the same secondary schools. They shared socks, textbook, even the same crush in SS2. During long holiday, Ify always came to spend 2 weeks at Titi's house. They wore each other's clothes and laughed at the same joke. They never fought for long. If they argued, one would always sneak in food for the other and say, "Let's eat and forget it." People used to call them twins. They even started calling each other sister. That name never changed. When Titi started dating Kunle during NYSC, Ify was the first to know. She had screamed, "My sister is in love, oh," and danced around the room. Titi would show her his charts, ask for advice, and even practice voice notes before sending. Ify always helped. She would say, "Talk slower," or "Don't look too eager." When Kunle started having panic attack during his job search, Titi was worried. Ify said, "Let me talk to him too, just to calm him down. You know I get sense sometimes." So Ify started checking on Kunle. Sometimes she would call him at night to help him sleep. Titi trusted her. She believed it was just friendship. After all, Ify had always been around, always close, always safe. When Kunle proposed after 2 years, Ify was the loudest. She jumped on Titi's back and shouted, "You are getting married, sister. We made it." She helped choose the wedding colors, red and champagne. She helped taste cake samples, even booked the MC. Ify was everywhere. She was calling vendors, arranging music, helping Titi pick between off-shoulder and sweetheart neckline. Titi didn't think much of it. She was just happy her best friend was by her side. Ify was even managing Kunle's threats better than she could. Sometimes, when Titi was too tired to respond to his long text, Ify would say, "Don't worry, I already told him to breathe. You know how he is." And Titi would smile because she trusted them both. But what she doesn't know was that Ify had always watched her life like someone standing outside a window. That even when they laughed, Ify was measuring the distance between them. That deep down, Ify believed she deserved a love like Kunle's, or better. And Kunle, he wasn't as strong as he looked. He lacked attention. He liked being listened to. And Ify knew how to speak gentle, like someone wrapping you in a soft cloth while slowly cutting through you. Titi didn't see it coming because love makes you focus on the altar and forget to check who's holding your veil. The sun was shining early that morning. The sky was blue and birds were flying gently across the rooftop. Inside the Adetola family house, everything was busy. Aunties were singing in the kitchen. Cousins were carrying boxes. One girl was fanning jollof rice while another was pinning up gele. It was Titi's wedding day. Inside the bedroom, the air smelled like fresh powder and hairspray. Titi was sitting in front of the mirror. Her face was glowing. Her dress was perfect. It was a white mermaid gown with a bold red train. Her veil was soft and light, and at the very bottom of the gown, stitched carefully in red thread, was her name, Titi. She looked like a bride. She felt like one too. Ify came in, already dressed in her champagne color satin gown. She kissed Titi's cheek. "You are glowing, sister. Today, you become Mrs. K." Titi smiled. "I can't believe it's here." Ify nodded and bent down to adjust the train. But as she bent, she was also holding her phone. She was typing fast with her other hand hidden behind her back. Titi didn't notice. She was checking her bouquet. Ify slipped her phone back into her purse and stood up quickly. "The car is ready," she said. "Let's make you a wife." The bridal convoy was outside. White Benz, red ribbon tied to the mirrors, flowers petals on the bonnet. The driver opened the back door. Titi entered and sat quietly. Ify didn't join her in the back. She sat in front beside the driver. And while they were driving, she was on her phone again, texting. Her fingers were moving fast and her face stayed calm. Titi was holding her bouquet. Her eyes were fixed on the road, her heart beating slowly. She was thinking about the vows, about the cake, about seeing Kunle at the altar. When they arrived, the church compound was already full. Canopies were shaking gently in the wind. Choir music were floating through the air. Guests were standing. Some were already taking pictures. The MC was checking his mic. The photographers were adjusting their cameras. Everything looked ready. The driver opened the door. Titi stepped out slowly. The red train of her dress flowed behind her. Her heels touched the carpet gently. People clapped softly. Phones went up. Some aunties started humming wedding song. She smiled shyly and kept walking towards the church steps. That's when she noticed something. The altar was empty. There was no Kunle, no groomsmen, no best man, just the pastor, standing quietly and holding his Bible with two hands. Titi slowed down. Her smile faded just a little. She looked around. Where was he? Where was Ify? Then a man stepped forward. It was one of Kunle's cousins. His shirt was damp at the armpit. His hands were shaking. He looked down at the floor, then back up at her. He held out a small white envelope. He said nothing. "Just Kunle said I should give you this." Then he stepped back quickly and disappeared into the crowd. Titi opened the envelope and slowly, it was shaking slightly in her hands, but she kept her fingers steady. The letter was short, only one line. "I'm sorry. I couldn't do it. I followed my heart. That was all. No dear, no name, no signature, just that sentence." Titi stood there, in front of everyone. She was blinking, but no tears came out. The choir had gone silent. The guests were whispering, "Is this part of the plan? Where is the groom? Why is she standing there?" The clouds above started turning grey. One soft spot of rain landed on her shoulder, then another on her cheek, then one on her dress. The wind blew harder. Her red thread started dragging through the dust and water. She didn't speak, didn't scream, didn't faint. She just turned around slowly and walked back to the car. Her bouquet was still in her hand, but her fingers were relaxed now. The name at the bottom of her dress, the one she stitched with hope, was now stained with mud. She entered the car without help. She looked straight ahead and said to the driver, very quietly, "Take me home." The compound was quiet that night. Everyone had gone home. The canopies were empty. The chairs were stacked in one corner. Even the music speakers had been packed away. The ground was still wet from the rain. Inside her room, Titi was sitting on the edge of her bed. The white gown was lying beside her, folded gently but still stained with mud. Her veil was hanging on the chair. Her bouquet was on the floor, dry and limp. She hadn't eaten, hadn't spoken, hadn't shed one single tear. She just sat there, blinking slowly, her hands resting in her lap. Her mother knocked once, didn't answer. Her aunties tried to come in. She locked the door. She didn't want comfort, didn't want prayers. She just wanted air. So at midnight, she stood up. She took a small backpack from under the bed. She folded the dress and placed it inside. No other clothes, no shoes, just the dress and her charger. She opened her drawer and picked up her ID card. Titilayo Adetola, registered nurse. Then she picked her phone. She looked at the screen. 76 missed calls. Most were from family, some from church members, and 2 from Kunle's cousin. She powered the phone off, slipped it into the side pocket and left. By 1:35 a.m., She was sitting inside a half-filled night bus at Iwo Road. The bus was going to Lagos. She sat by the window, her backpack on her lap. Didn't cry, didn't think about who would explain things at home. She just sat there watching the road pass. Her body was still, but inside, something was shaking quietly. She reached Lagos by morning. No one welcomed her. She took a keke to her old nurse hostel in Okota. She greeted the gatesman. He looked shocked. "Ah, Nurse Titi, long time. You not even tell us anything." She nodded softly and said, "I just needed space." He opened the gate. She walked up to her room. It was dusty, but still the same. The bed was small. The fan was broken, but the air smelled like safety. She sat down and closed her eyes. The next day, she resumed work. She entered the hospital like nothing had happened. Her colleagues looked at her with wide eyes. Some hugged her. Some didn't know what to say. One whispered, "Is it through?" She smiled gently and said nothing. She clipped on her badge, wore her gloves, and started her shift. Days passed, then weeks. She kept working long hours. She helped patients. She took night calls. She smiled at children in the ward. But outside of work, didn't post anything online. She didn't change her relationship status. She didn't talk about what happened. And because she said nothing, people started writing their own stories. "She's proud," someone said. "Maybe she caused it," another replied. "I heard she insulted the groom's mother. I heard she had a spiritual issue, but she's pretending like nothing happened." And not one person, not even one, mentioned Ife, because Ife had always been the sweet one, the helpful one, the girl with perfect makeup and polite voice. But snakes don't hiss when they are wearing perfume. They smile and they hug you while you are sleeping. And so Titi walked and healed in silence and kept the dress folded in her locker, not to forget what happened, but to remind herself that she survived it. It all started with a photo this beautiful morning. Titi had just come off a long shift at the hospital. Her feet were sore, her eyes were tired. She was drinking water in the staff room, not really listening to the chatter around her. Then Lami, the bubbly junior nurse, called her. This couple fine, no. Titi, see this wedding dress, simple but sweet." Titi looked up lazily. Lami flipped the phone to show her. Titi blinked. It was Ife, wearing a fitted white dress, hair coiled bucket in her hand. Beside her stood Kunle, smiling, holding her waist, married. Titi froze. Her body didn't move, but her heartbeat quickened. She slowly reached for the phone. She pinched the photo to zoom it. They were standing in front of a court building, the one by Ogota roundabout. Her eyes caught a small detail. Ife's bracelet, the gold one with a tiny heart charm. Titi remembered it clearly because Ife had worn it to her own wedding rehearsal. Lami laughed. Now wow, people know they waste time again. Titi smiled, just a little, and handed the phone back to her. Then she stood and walked out. She didn't cry, not yet. But that evening, something made her open Instagram. She had blocked both Kunle and Ife after the wedding collapse. But now, she searched them, found Ife's profile. It was private, but the caption under her profile said, "Late night talks become forever. Hashtag Ife and IK. Cut love, no looking back." She scrolled. There was only old post from 2 weeks before the wedding. "He makes me feel calm. I hope peace always wins." The picture was a cup of tea on Kunle's kitchen counter. Titi recognized the granite surface. Her fingers started shaking. She went to Kunle's page, still public. A photo of a hand on his chest, not tagged, but that bracelet again. That was when it clicked. If he had been doing it all along, helping Kunle with wedding stress, sending him voice notes at midnight, whispering doubt into his ears, telling him you don't have to marry her just because everyone expects it, then blaming the connection on timing, claiming maybe we are just the truth neither of us wanted to face. Titi's hands were sweating. Her heart wasn't breaking again. It had already broken, but now she understood how it happened right under her nose. While she was fitting her gown, Ife was unzipping hers. While she was stitching her name into the hem, Ife was unbuttoning what didn't belong to her. She stood up. Her stomach felt tight. She walked out of her hostel and into the nearest supermarket to breathe. She picked a biscuit, some tissue, a bottle of water, and then she heard the voice. Titi! It was Michael, Kunle's cousin. He hadn't changed, still smiling too much. Still not reading the room. Ah, small world, he said, walking towards her. She didn't smile. It be like you never hear. Ify and Kunle don't marry. Court wedding. Then they live together now for Bagada. He laughed again. It shocked me too, haha. But if he always gets sense, Titi stared at him. She couldn't find the words. She nodded once, dropped the biscuit, and walked out of the store. She stood beside the dustbin, bending low. Her hands held her stomach, and quietly, without drama, she vomited, not from sickness, but from the weight of truth, from betrayal that wore her friend's voice and shared her pillow for years. She wiped her mouth with her scarf, stood upright, and walked home. Her face was dry, but her spirit was different now. Not broken, woken. It had been 3 months since the photo, and the Harmattan wind was softer that morning. 3 months since the vomit behind the supermarket. 3 months since she picked up a pen and started bleeding her pain into paper. The world around her hadn't changed much, but she had. She was stronger now. Still quiet, but not empty. Still calm, but no longer carrying everyone's weight. She had stopped asking why. She was now focused on what next. It was a Saturday. Titi was at home, cleaning her small room. She had just finished rinsing the floor when she heard a knock. Soft at first, then firmer. She wiped her hand on her wrapper and walked to the door. She opened it slowly, and there they were, Kunle and Ify. Kunle stood there looking nothing like the man she once planned a wedding with. Ify was behind him. They both looked like people who had lost something they didn't know how to keep. Titi didn't say anything. She just stepped aside, let them walk in. She didn't offer them water, didn't ask how they were doing. She just stood by the window, her arms crossed, watching. Kunle sat first. His voice was dry. If he left, he said. Titi blinked once. She said I was soft, he continued, but I don't fight hard enough, that I'm not ambitious. He scratched his bed. She took the last money I was saving. She's gone, Titi. Titi nodded once, and then turned to Ify, who was sitting right next to him. What about you? She asked softly. Ify tried to smile. It didn't reach her eyes. She stepped forward and opened her mouth. I made a mistake, she said. I didn't plan it. It just happened. Titi said nothing. Ify kept going. You are stronger than me. I see that now. I thought I was winning, but everything I thought I wanted didn't last. Then her voice cracked. I miss you, my sister. I miss us. Ha. Titi looked at her for a long time. Not with anger, not with tears, just stillness. Then she walked to her table and picked something up. A small notebook. She flipped to the last page and tore it out. Then she walked to Ify and handed it to her. On it was written, some people dig a hole and expect you to fall in, but you planted a garden instead. Ify read it and blinked. But before she could speak, Titi stepped to the door. She opened it wide and pointed outside. I don't need an apology, she said calmly. And I don't want your regrets. If you had loved me even a little, you wouldn't have smiled while ruining me. Then she added, I was the one who stood for you at your lowest, but you chose to rise on my broken back. Ify's lip trembled, but Titi didn't flinch. She looked her straight in the eyes and said, now, you know what it feels like to be walked out on. Then she turned her face away and stood there. Both of you, get out of my house. Ify slowly walked out of the room, head low. She clicked softly against the door. Kunle didn't move. He looked at Titi, tried to speak, but she raised her hand once and he stopped. You said she gave you peace. She said quietly, maybe what you needed was discomfort, so you could grow. Then she nodded towards the door. I grew, but you didn't. Get out. He walked out too, and when the door clicked shut, she didn't cry, didn't shake, didn't even lock it, because this time, they knew not to ever come back. It had been nearly a year. Life was quiet now. Titi was still working at the hospital, still writing in her notebook, still growing flowers on her windowsill. Like they were her second chance. Didn't talk about the past, didn't avoid it either. She had stopped deleting pictures. She had stopped holding her breath when someone mentioned Ify or Kunle. The wound had become a scar, and scars don't hurt when you press them gently. Her younger sister was getting married. The announcement came in a voice note filled with excitement. Titi, I want you here. Please, I know it might bring up memories, but I need you. Titi paused before replying, then said simply, I will come. But when the day got closer, she realized she had nothing to wear. She opened her wardrobe. The hangers rattled quietly, and there it was, the dress, the same white mermaid gown, with the red string, with the name Titi stitched carefully into the hem. Still folded, still waiting. She touched the fabric with her fingers. It no longer made her chest tightened. It no longer smelled like fear. It was just fabric now, but also more. She pulled it out, pressed it gently with a warm iron. Didn't take the veil, didn't carry a bouquet. She added coral beads and a gold bangle. Her hair was wrapped neatly in a high bun. Her lipstick was a calm, bold red. Her steps were firm, and her smile was earned. When she walked into the hall, it was like time paused. People turned. Whispers filled the air. Isn't that? It can't be. She wore it again. Titi kept walking. Her head was high. Her heels tapped softly on the tiled floor. She smiled at the bride, her sister, who beamed at her with joy. And for the first time since her own wedding day, Titi clapped. Fully, freely. No shaking hands, no faking smile. She danced when they danced. She laughed when someone joked about wedding food being better than love. She even greeted one of Kunle's distant cousins with a short, polite nod. Because that day, the dress was no longer cursed. It wasn't carrying shame, it was carrying strength. It was carrying the story of a woman who refused to rot. When someone asked, Titi, is that the same gown? She looked at them and smiled. Yes, she said, but I'm not the same woman. And when she left the party that evening, someone took a photo of her by the gate. Her red thread was touching the ground. The wind was brushing her scarf. And her face, it wasn't soft, it was settled, like someone who had seen fire and came out shining. This story was never about a cursed dress. It was about the woman who trusted the wrong hands to fix her veil. The woman who didn't know that betrayal sometimes wears your shade of lipstick and calls you sister. She thought the danger was waiting at the altar, but the real danger was standing beside her. So now I ask you, do you know who's standing beside you? Not just in photos, not just at wedding, but in life. Because sometimes, it's not the person you marry that breaks you. It's the one you ask to hold your bucket. And when she wore that dress again, she didn't wear it for shame. She wore it to show that healing is louder than gossip, that peace walks taller than pain. And the next time, she will choose her circle the same way she chooses her gown carefully. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to share this story with your family and your friends who might love to see them. Till I see you again in my next story. Goodbye.